Welcome to Virtual Lunch in the Exhibit Marketers Cafe. I am Marlys Arnold, and I'm so glad to be back here again on Tuesday with everybody. I always look forward to this. And so it's been an interesting week. I don't know about you, but last Wednesday I was moderating Expo Chat, sponsored by TSNN on Twitter. And all of a sudden, 20 minutes in, Twitter decided that I guess I was tweeting too much and they declared me a robot and blocked my account. So right in the middle of hosting, all of a sudden everything went silent. So, it's one of those things where you learn that you got to have a backup plan. And so I called Arlene from TSNN. She hopped in, took over for me. Took me a while to get my account back. I did also learn there is a hidden way on Twitter that you can actually go in and download all of your data, which is like all of your, hundreds of tweets, your followers, all that stuff. So if anybody's curious, I can give you the heads up on that. So I see Rama is here. Rama Bierfuss from Lev Promotions in San Diego. I can get that. I'm coming off attending a 3-day conference, so I get the whole idea of catching up. And by the way, Rama, it was really cute. She posted on, I think it was on LinkedIn, shared a picture of a wireless phone charger that was made from recycled wheat straw. And I just made a comment. I'm like, oh, as a Kansas farmer's daughter, that makes me proud. And then look what showed up in my mail. Rama sent me a cute little charger. It's like adorable. It's like miniature and it's like, it weighs nothing. And it's made from recycled wheat straw. So anyway, thank you, Rama. That was very cool. Very kind of you. Kevin Carty's here. Happy Tuesday to you too. So be sure, if you would like to introduce yourself, put your name in the comments and tell us where you're from. And I know we have a lot of regulars here, and I always look forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday. We've got a really great special guest here today, too. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Thanks, Rama. I appreciate it. Okay, so as for some links today, and my husband Alan is in the background. He's going to be putting those up for us as we go along. But I know that we're kind of getting tired of masks and, wish we didn't have to wear them. Some people refusing to wear them. But anyway, some companies are trying to get really creative. I saw one the other day, somebody had taken a selfie and it was actually like a animal cartoon mask, like the bottom half of an animal's face, and so different things like that. But there's a company that is doing LED face masks. So Alan's going to share that link here in just a second. And for those of you on YouTube, the links are already there. Alan's putting them up in Facebook, but if you're on YouTube, the links are there in the description. So if you just click to read more, it'll be there. We have Jennings join us from Beaufort, South Carolina. And, she's looking forward to seeing Leslie. So, yeah, Leslie's got some great things to share. So that's coming up. Here is that link. Again, I know, crazy long. That's why we put them in the comments for you, so you don't have to search or type it all in. But anyway, they're LED light masks. So they glow, and they actually color change. So, little bit wild and weird, but they also on the same article, they've also got wristbands, the little rubber wristbands, but they also light up. So anyway, if you want to have a disco mask, there you go. But anyway, Ben, so good to have you here. We're glad you made it. I'm so happy to see you. And Matt is here from Champion Logistics, another one of our regulars that we see most every Tuesday. So welcome back. So anyway, that's the LED mask. Another bit of creativity, and I'm really enjoying seeing what different businesses and companies are doing. But some hotels are getting creative and opening up their meeting spaces as little mini schools. So for parents who, are tired of trying to teach their kid at home, they've got what they call micro schools, where there's several families going together and teaching. And so PCMA did this article on several different hotels that are opening up their spaces as little mini schools. And it's really clever. So I thought that might be kind of interesting, not only from our industry standpoint, but also for any of those of you who have kids, might want to read what some of the innovations are there. Also, Marco, I haven't seen him pop on here yet. Our friend Marco Barozzi from Italy is usually one of our regulars. He shared a link. There's an exhibition outlook industry survey. And so Alan's going to put that up. And so anyway, you can go take a look at that. Take the survey. I don't see that popping up just yet. Oh, there it is. So there you go. This one's nice and short because it's a bit.ly link. You don't want to see the real one. It was long. But anyway, so go take that. And then also recently I was interviewed by Rich Vallister at Personify on their Planet Leadership podcast. So I'm going to share that link with you here in just a second if you want to go take a listen. But that was on helping exhibitors and sponsors in the virtual world. So, talking maybe a little bit more on the show organizer side, but still there's a lot of issues because, shows are going virtual, but the exhibitors don't really know what they're doing. And so they're not really seeing the value, and it's not rocket science. It just takes reframing and doing things a little bit different and getting creative. Hey, Silvana, good to have you back again. Welcome back. Happy Tuesday to you. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Some stories about what's happening in the industry. TSNN did a story about Seattle and Miami are starting to come back. So Seattle is doing a limit of 30% capacity or 200 guests. Miami is doing 50% capacity, but, slowly, and, some of the different cities are starting to reopen. We mentioned, I don't have the link in here, but we mentioned last week that coming up in about a month, towards the end of October, I'm sure Kevin Carty can tell us the actual date. Together Again Expo is doing another expo, this time in Dallas. So if you missed that link, go back and take a look at last week's virtual lunch, or I believe, Kevin, you can correct me, I think it's just togetheragainexpo.com. So let us know that in the comments as well. So that'll be good. That'll be both an in-person and a virtual show. So you can take advantage of that. Also, PCMA did another article on lessons learned from the Georgia Society of Association Executives. They did a conference, and they had less than 25% capacity in the room. So they had people spaced out. And there's a lot of pictures in the article that you can see. Here is the link for that one. But anyway, so they had pictures of how they spread everybody out, and they did some other creative things, like they had longer breaks, and it sounds like they might have kind of staggered the breaks so that people weren't all, how it usually is, like, release the hounds and everybody goes out in the hall at the same time. So they were strategically doing that and allowing 45 minutes between sessions so that they could go back in and disinfect everything. So Kevin says it's October 23rd. And again, you can go check out details on the Together Again Expo. But anyway, so you might want to check out that PCMA article on the Georgia Association executives. Also, I found I've been on the lookout for anything that, any kind of a charitable movement or plan to try to help people in our industry. Haven't really found anything specifically for the trade show side of things, but there is the Above and Beyond Foundation is doing, they're giving $500 gift cards, Visa gift cards to hospitality industry employees. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, there's a link just to go check that out. But like I said, I hope that somebody decides to do something to try to help those in our, the thousands, if not millions in our industry who are struggling. I don't know. I keep thinking it's like, could we do a telethon or, what can we do? For months, I've been trying to figure out how can we do something to help and support each other. But anyway, so that's one thing. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal titled "Trade Shows Limp Back to Life," and it was focused on European shows, but they did profile several different shows and what they're doing to get, start back up and how they're, handling it and what their procedures are and that kind of thing. So kind of ties back into last week's topic when we had Kai here from UFI talking about, the road forward. So wanted to share that one. And then one more I want to share, and again, this is something that's just getting started, so it's not too robust at this point, but it's just something to put on your radar. There is a trade show job board that's been created by some of the industry associations. So I know EACA and EDPA are together on it. I don't know who else is involved. I don't remember. But anyway, there is a trade show job board. I hope it will begin to be much more robust as things go. But I wanted to go ahead and put it out there because the more the word gets out, that it can spread and things can start to, the word can start to get around and people can, start to help each other more. Savannah says, I hope too, the situation is so bad. What can we all do together? Any ideas? I know, if anybody has any ideas, please connect with me. If you have any ideas for any other speakers you'd like to have me bring on or topics you want to cover in virtual lunch, please let me know that too, because, that's what I have created this for. I want this to be a forum where we can all come together and we can brainstorm and share ideas and share inspiration. And so kind of leading into my guest, when I started virtual lunch 6 months ago, that was my goal, was I wanted to help the industry. I kept thinking, what can I do? How can I help? And so that's where these weekly virtual lunches came from. But every time I would see another one of my friends pop up on LinkedIn saying they were searching, or somebody else telling me about their business closing, or, however many hundreds or thousands of employees in their company had been laid off. I felt so helpless, and I kept thinking, what can I do? How can I help? And so recently on a Facebook online entrepreneurs group, I was going through and I was reading some posts, and I came across Leslie Thorne, and I saw some of her posts about, and I realized that she was more than just like a career advisor. I mean, she takes it from a different perspective, but I was impressed with what I saw. And so I went to her website and I started reading some of her articles, and I really, really liked her perspective. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and I thought, I could bring her on virtual lunch and she could share and give inspiration and ideas and some insights to those who are searching for work. So anyway, today I'm not going to give too much of her backstory because it's fascinating, and I want to let her tell, because she's really got some real world experience. She's not just giving advice, she's sharing from the heart. But you're going to be so inspired, and you're really going to get a new perspective, a fresh perspective on looking for work. So Leslie, thank you so much for joining us here today in virtual lunch.
Well, thank you for having me. I am very excited about being here, and you'll have to. There's so many things I want to share. So feel free to cut me off if I'm sharing too much and I need to move on. But anyway, hi everybody. My name is Leslie Evans Thorne, and I call myself the Chief Freedom Officer of YouAreFree.com, where I help people to create meaningful work that matters, work to them, work that makes an impact, so that they can make their contribution and be well paid. And I come to you today not as I love the introduction, not as a traditional career coach. I come to you as somebody who has lived through 5 or 6 career transitions myself. So I'm not a coach with lots of certifications, although I did teach at the Coach Certification Institute. But I've had 5 or 6 sort of reinventions. I went from politics to banking to counter trade to corporate consulting and training to outplacement and executive coaching to being a business owner. I think that's 6. Right?
Well, and those are not just slight transitions either. Some of those are abrupt U-turns and left turns. And so, yeah, so you really know what you're talking about. Well, part of what I really liked about when I started reading some of your articles and your posts was that it's not just about finding a job. When you work with somebody, you're actually helping them. And I loved how you said in one place, it's like excavating to uncover your talents, like an archaeological dig. And so tell us a little bit more about that. I really think that's fascinating.
Okay. Sure. No, I would be happy to. I look at so much of the career literature online, and so much of it, there's a recent book that just came out. I don't have the title, but the author was advocating just spending your career building on your skill. A skill is something that you learn. It's acquired knowledge, right? And you practice it. I believe that the way to create meaningful work and the way to leverage yourself in this marketplace, even with COVID, is to find your talent. A talent is different from a skill. A talent is something it's a natural ability that you have. It's inborn. It's inbred. It's something that you do really well. And I find that with my clients that it comes so naturally to them that they think everybody can do it that way, but it's not true. It's just, and it can, sometimes when people think about talents, they think it's got to be something like, I don't know, writing music or writing a book but a talent can be like the way that you approach solving a difficult situation with a customer, right? It can be just like intuitively knowing what that customer needs and solving it in a way that can't be taught to other people. It's just a natural ability that you have.
Well, and I know I've found that too. I have a lot of people tell me that I'm a good interviewer, and I think, well, I was trained as a reporter, so of course, but when I really stop and think about it, there are some reporters who really aren't good interviewers. So you're right. There are degrees of talent that are more just kind of instinct. I mean, for me, even as a little kid, I would go around asking everybody questions. So it probably is more of just like an inborn talent, like you said.
Yeah, I am. I was going to read. Can I read something from one of my articles, because I wanted to point to that later? I told Marlys that I put together a little gift for people who are on the call today.
Yes,
it's called a talent workbook. I hope I'm not spilling the beans. Were you going to talk about that later?
No, that's fine. Actually, and we'll even have Alan put that link up so that people can go and grab that. Don't go right now, though. Listen to the rest of the interview first.
Yes, I am. So I put together this booklet. It's called the Talent Booklet, to help you unearth, discover, identify your talents so that you can set yourself apart from the competition. And in this booklet, I've got my favorite talent articles, as well as some examples of people that I coached to help find their talents, because they started out working with me saying, I don't really have any talents. Well, they actually do have talents. And in fact, when I thought about the concept of talent in relation to the title of today's talk, which is Discover Your Career Superpower, I think I would identify, or I define your career superpower is it's your unique compilation of talents and the way that you bring those to the world to provide value to the marketplace.
I love that. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And I loved also, and I have to say, the career superpower phrase was not my idea. I did get that from one of your articles as well. I don't want people to think I made that up. But funny. I thought that was such a great way of looking at it, is that it is. I mean, that once you find all those unique things about you that make you you, that really is the way to sell yourself in the marketplace. And those of us in the trade show and events industry, I mean, we do have a lot of skills we take for granted. I mean, like you said, the problem solving skills or talent or ability, however you want to phrase it. being able to, and some people, and one gift I do not have is some people can walk into a room and go, oh, this room would seat X number. I don't have that spatial ability, but there are all kinds of fantastic talents in this industry. And I think that's one thing. And I know one of the challenges of what's happening right now with all of the people in this group, is that it's not so much that, oh, I've always worked for ABC company, and so now I'm going to go work for XYZ company, one of their competitors, because, a lot of the jobs just aren't there right now. So how do you take the talents that you have that you've always used in one industry? I mean, because some people have been in the same job for 20 years. How do you take that and start to reframe and figure out how do I translate that to a whole different industry? I mean, you've obviously done that multiple times.
I have. I actually, would you mind if I just did a little piece on COVID and how it's affected the world of work?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Because I think that, like, to talk about work in today's world without acknowledging a coronavirus or COVID or whatever you want to call it, and the impact that it's had on the marketplace, it feels like there's a white elephant in the room that we're not talking about. And
right.
I really would like to discuss. So I was thinking about, there were actually two things that I wanted to say about the work that I do first. And that is that there are two pillars that I have in my work. One is, here's pillar number one. Everybody write it down, get your pens out. That I believe that each one of you was born with a series of gifts, talents, and abilities. And your job is to figure out what those are and to use them to their maximum potential so you make a contribution to the marketplace and are well paid. So that's what I believe about each one of you, that you were born with a series of unique gifts, talents, and abilities, and it's your job to figure out what they are so that you can pull them together in a package, and that's what I help people do, and bring them to the marketplace for pay. That's pillar number one. Pillar number two is, today is the best time in history to create work that you love. I really deeply believe that, even with COVID. So I may sound like an extreme Pollyanna here, but I want to talk about COVID and the effect, if that's okay.
Sure.
And the effect that it's had on the marketplace. So I know that it has completely upended a lot of industries like yours. I mean, just turned it on its head.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that some industries, so I've done a lot of work for the Global Business Travelers Association, the Midwest chapter. And, I read in the paper this week, actually, that I've got my phone here, the title, the title is Airline Industry Facing Worst Job Losses in History. So in 48 hours, 35,000 people are going to be, depending on which article you read, either furloughed or laid off in their industry, which means that they're going to have to, just going back to your previous question, they're going to have to figure out how to take what they did in the airline industry and make it apply to another industry. So I will talk about that. I will answer that question. But I also want to say that in the midst of this devastation and upending, if you will, there's also something else that's happening. And that is that new markets, new industries, and new market segments are emerging during this time. So the woman that we met through, can I say her name? Do you mind?
Oh, sure.
Bushra Azar. I love Bushra. She gave a presentation yesterday that I attended because I knew I was going to be on this lunch today, and I wanted to share some of her wisdom with you because I thought it might be relevant. And her webinar was called 21 Corona-Proof, Corona-Fueled Businesses.
Yes, I wasn't able to attend that one. So
she talked about, like, for example, as an industry segment or a market segment that's emerging, she said, for example, there are working professionals working at home who are homeschooling their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's never existed before.
No.
So there's a market there for helping people to manage that. But she went through her she had 21 industries that she said were emerging as a result of Corona. And guess what the first one was that she said? Just guess.
Virtual events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Online event. What did she call it? Online event industry. So what I found really interesting about that was she said that what people are looking for is not a way to take actual events and bringing them online via Zoom, but how can you take events and create the same experience that you would have if you were in a room full of people? That's the challenge.
Well, exactly. And that's what I've been working for the last 6 months. That's how I've been reinventing myself as a virtual events expert. And for those of you who get my monthly trade show tips online e-zine, if you had time this morning, you read the article comparing the tale of two virtual events that I just experienced. And that is one example of, how can you take it? And one of the ones that I shared that was a good one, they sent us a kit ahead of time and we did an unboxing throughout the event, and we would pull out. So as they talked about things on screen, we were experiencing the actual item as they talked about it, and it made it so much more engaging. So, there are ways to do that, but exactly, we are the people who understand how to put on events. And so we have a question here from Silvana. How can I go from travel director to a moderator? I'm learning all the apps, but I don't have the experience, so I can't work on this. Trying to. Any tips to follow?
So I would ask the question, why are you interested in being a moderator? Like, what is it about that? And then I would say, I don't have the experience. I made that switch from, remember I made the switch from politics into banking, right? So maybe I should use this as an example for people. And so a big mistake that people make is that I was going to talk about the 4 different ways to look for work in the marketplace, but I'll just take pieces of it out.
Okay.
What I did when I was I worked on Capitol Hill for a senator, and I wrote my resume as a chronological accounting of what I did. So I worked for a senator, and I'd worked for a congressman, and I worked for a member of the House of Lords, and I had a BA in politics, and I sent it to banks. And what do you think happened?
Crickets.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It went in the trash. So I was not deterred. And I said, all right, they just don't know what I can do for them. So where am I going to start if I work for a bank? Because this was early in my career. Well, I'm going to start as a credit analyst. Okay, well, what does a credit analyst do? Well, a credit analyst has to analyze and research companies, mostly do analysis, right? Then you have to communicate the results of your analysis. And then if you're ever going to move from being a credit analyst, you need to be able to market and sell. So I went back and I did an inventory of everything that I did in Washington. I encourage you to think about doing this. I just wrote down and it might be harder to do. You might want to do it in segments if you've been working for 20 years.
Right. That might be a little overwhelming.
But, and I encourage people to spend 15 minutes, sort of a segment, and then walk away. That's what I do with my clients. But anyway, so I went through and, wrote down about 30 things that I had done. And I thought, well, did I do any analysis? Yeah, I analyzed legislation all the time. So it wasn't bank analysis, but I had the ability to analyze. I had the ability to research. So I started taking examples of what I had done down here, and I wrote a functional resume. I think you should do more than that in today's world. But so I had 3 skill sets on my resume. I just had 3 sets of skills: analysis and research, communication, oral and written, and marketing and sales. And the marketing and sales was a stretch because I had to make the case that I actually sold the senator's ideas to other senators, but I sold. Well, it just wasn't a product.
Yeah, exactly. That's still selling. Savannah says it's a work opportunity. So that was her response. But
so you want to take what you've done in the past, and how that might, like your communication skills, how that might relate to being a moderator. I can't speak to learning the apps, but
right.
But let me just finish my story.
Oh,
if
okay.
It's okay with you. So what was the result of that resume that I put out to the banks?
they were much more intrigued.
5 job offers.
Wow.
5 job offers. So you can do that too. And you know what? You can do that no matter what level you are working at. If you've been in a job for 20 years, you can still take those skills. And I would suggest what you want to do is not just look at this. You can either start with the skills that you're looking to fill in another in another industry, but I would start with those things that you know how to do well, whether it's project plan, whether it's manage relationships with clients. And then I would get my booklet and look at finding your talents, because you're going to get hired based on your superpower, based on the results that you bring your organization. Smart companies don't hire skills. Smart companies hire results.
Well, and again, that booklet, the little workbook that you put together, I think is so great because you've got those exercises in there. You basically walk people through. So I highly recommend, even if you're not currently looking, I highly recommend you go grab a copy of Leslie's booklet, because it will open up some ahas for you. And if nothing else, it's going to give you some insights. If you've got a friend or you've got a client or somebody who is looking, you might be able to point them in the right direction and give them some pointers as well. Also, Alan, I want to have you put up in the background Leslie's article on the 3 questions. That was a really good one too. I loved how you had that, really laid out in very clear terms. Silvana says that's great. Thank you so much. So appreciate that, Leslie.
You're welcome.
But anyway, so the 3 questions article. So tell us a little bit more. I don't want to give away too much because people can go read the article, but this one is geared specifically towards life after coronavirus. And I love the term you used. I saw on your website, Rona-proof your career. I thought that was clever.
I probably got that from Bushra. I don't know. What's your question in terms of the 3 questions? How to find work after COVID?
Well, just any other tips along those lines of I don't want to reveal everything from the article, but any other tips for the finding work after post-COVID?
Yeah. I want to say another thing about COVID, and that is that I think that the effect that it's had in the world of work is that people are thinking about work differently and the role that it plays in their life. So I think there are people who are grateful that they have work, okay, but they're probably not on this call. Then there are people who are doing or have done, a certain type of work, and they realize that it's not aligned with who they are, what they want to do, because they realize life is short and they are not in a job that's allowing them to use their potential. Because I think so many of us really want to use our potential, like give what we have, make a contribution based on what we have. So there are people who want to make a change, and then there are people who have to make a change. And then there are people within that who have to make a change who need to make money fast. So those are people who need to gig, right?
Right.
And there was that article that I read about the airline ticket agent who was going to try to get, she needed to make money quickly. And so she was going to go get a bartending job, because that's what we think. We go to these jobs that think where we think we can make really fast money. For people who need to gig, if there are anyone on the call that needs to make money fast because they're a breadwinner, then I would say that what you want to do is take the skill that you were using in your job and try to sell that quickly. So for that woman, I would have said she was a ticket agent. I would be approaching companies that do a lot of customer-client relationship work, and I would be selling that to them, because I think that's the fastest way, right, that you can generate income for yourself.
Well, and I think that's very smart advice, because, it's one of those times when, if you really, like you said, if you really step back and look, maybe there is something that would be a better fit for you than the job where you were before. And now would be the perfect time to change, but you can't just desperately rush out and grab the first open job that's out there. You need to still find, like you said, if you need a gig just to get you by in the meantime, but don't let yourself get stuck in something that's not right for you, because you could end up stuck there for another 10 years or something.
No, you need to, I call this creating your financial anchors. You need to have a financial anchor. So, but you look at it as a gig, even if it's a paying job. You can look at it as a gig, and you can still in the background be working toward what it is you really want to do.
I love that
perspective. But again, it's the combination of your talents. So can I tell a quick story about somebody that I'm looking at the time? I just want to be mindful of your time.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to tell a story. So I had somebody come to me. I've helped people go from, there was a woman I worked with early in my career, and she'd been a banker for 13 years, and I helped her become a personal trainer for celebrities. So that was one big switch.
Wow.
I've helped an Uber driver who he did have a law degree and a business degree, but he wasn't a lawyer and he wasn't really a businessman, and he couldn't figure out how to put them together. So he became an Uber driver.
Oh, wow.
That's how, yeah. And now we figured out what his superpower was, and he's now leading a global nonprofit organization. So,
wow.
So once you figure out what it is you have to offer, and so the story that I want to tell, I'll try to tell it in a minute. I had someone come to me who had literally 10 careers. He had started off following the Grateful Dead. I guess that's not really a job.
Yeah, it was a gig.
It was a gig. And then he went to work on a commune. And then he went to work at the restaurant who bought food from the commune. And then he bought the restaurant.
Oh.
And then he went to Nepal to help, because his wife was going there, to help a woman manage her singing career for 3.5 years. Then he came back to the United States and became a candle maker. Then he became a builder and an electrician. And ultimately, he was the president of an organic wine importing company. And he came to me and said, I'm really unhappy. They want me to buy the wine importing company. Organic domestic wine business is not good right now. I don't want to do it. I don't know what I want to do.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. This one's going to be fun.
Well, it sounds like he's open to almost anything because he's all the things he's done.
So we figured out his superpower. And his superpower, he had this combination of unique talents. So he had the ability to anticipate problems before anybody else saw any evidence that something was going wrong. He used the creative side of his brain to come up with a creative solution. He actually came up with a couple. He would pick the best one. He had this very strong implementation piece. So he could see a problem, come up with a creative solution, and implement the solution before anybody knew that there was anything going wrong. And he was very good in the logistics area, in the logistics and supply area. So his dream was to become the COO of he discovered that his dream was to become the COO of an organic food distributor in the United States. And it took him a couple of little hops, but that's what he's doing today.
Well, but it makes sense because it ties in. He's got a background in food anyway. And then a COO, to have that strategic ability to see problems and solve them before they ever even become problems. I mean, it was like a marriage made in heaven.
Yes. But so my message to everybody is, if you can take a candle maker, electrician, builder
from a commune,
Grateful Dead follower, and become the successful COO of a food importing company, anything is possible. It just hinges on figuring out what you do really, really well and how you can bring that to another organization and how you can tell your story so that they understand the value that you will bring to them. That's another big piece, is telling your story.
Right. Well, I want to encourage everybody again to go check out the workbook that Leslie put together for us, because in there are several other stories of some different clients that she's worked with, and they're all very inspirational. So Leslie, any final points as we wrap up of just words of encouragement for people going forward?
I would say hang in there. I would say trust your creative tendencies. If you have an idea of something that you think might work, try it. I mean, I was going to tell another story about, I think when I was going to do a whole piece on this, but that's more of a training, I guess. But there are 4 ways to look for work in today's economy. If you can be proactive in creating your own opportunities instead of reactive and trying to fit yourself into some job description, you're going to be better off in the proactive. If you can go to a company and tell them, how you would be able to make a contribution, or why you think you could help them solve a problem. Or the other way of looking for work is just making it up and charging for it. These are proactive ways, right, of looking for work. Then I would encourage you to do that. Like, look for where you can add value. And anything is possible. I mean, I'm not going to diminish the pain, because I know it's extremely painful what everybody's going through. And I was also going to say that, you know, the weird thing about Corona is that we're all experiencing this thing collectively. We're all going through it, but each one of us is experiencing it individually. So I kind of want to honor that. But I also want to give you hope that there's a lot of opportunity to create in this environment. And I encourage you to think about doing that.
Well, and as you said earlier, it's the perfect time for reinventing yourself in whatever direction you choose to go. So I had Alan put up the link here for the You Are Free Creed. So this is Leslie's website, youarefree.com. And so if you need some more dose of inspiration, go check out this You Are Free Creed, because it really, it lays everything out. It's just so well put. So Leslie, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, to provide some inspiration and some direction for people who are struggling. And so thanks to everybody who joined us today. And I hope you walk away, you know, with uplifted spirits and maybe some new directions to go. But, you know, download Leslie's workbook and, you know, just open your mind.
If you have a question.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, there's her website, youarefree.com. So, you know, connect with Leslie if you have additional questions, and maybe at some point we'll bring you back on Virtual Lunch again.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
All right. We'll see everybody next Tuesday. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.